Ivy here again. Welcome to part 2 of this video about love. Still, I'm gonna say love. A feeling, a choice, or a command. What do you think love is? I believe it is all three of them. But then, let me talk about part 2 and you make up your mind what you think it is. You may still agree with what you have always believed. You may change your ideas. You may, I don't know what you are going to think after this. But I believe that love is of God. In Ephesians chapter 2 verse 4, it tells us that God is love. If God is love, therefore love is God. So if love is God, or if God is love, then if anything you're doing does not agree with God, then it is not love. For example, if you are lusting after someone, if you are looking at someone lustfully and you're calling it love, that is not love, my friend. It is lust. Let's call it what it is. If you look at someone and you want to have sex with them, if you look at someone and you have that feeling in the pit of your stomach, then it is lust. It is not love. Because love is much more than that. Love is much more than that feeling that you have. Love is a choice as well. It is a command. God commands us to love our neighbors as ourselves. He commands us to love Him with all of our hearts, all of our souls, all of our minds. And therefore, if He is commanding us, love is a combination of a feeling, of a choice. Even the part of feeling is very little as far as it comes to love, because more often than not, love is a choice and it is a command. This is a bit wonky. I'm just going to tilt it a little bit. Yeah, that is better. So, if God is love, and we have embraced God, and we have put Him as the King of our hearts, we have put Him on the throne of our hearts, that means we have all the love that we need inside of us. We don't have to run around to win the affection of other people in the name of love. We don't have to run around. We don't have to do splits. We don't have to jump up high to win the affection of people in the name of love. We don't have to do their bidding in the name of love, because we have said God is love and God sits on the throne of our hearts. Therefore, we have all of the love that we ever can need inside of us. If I'm saying so, that does not discount relationships. Relationships are very important. Because when God created Adam, He had a relationship with Him. It is really important that we build this relationship with God. God had an awesome relationship with Adam. But then He looked at man and said, it is not good that you're alone. So relationships are very key. So how then do we build authentic relationships? How do we build loving, authentic relationships? I have got here 4 points that I'm going to talk about. The first one is a genuine loving relationship always starts with God. God is at the center of that genuine loving relationship. It's a bit like you've got a husband and a wife on the same horizontal platform, and then you've got God at the top there. Both husband and wife feed from God, and they feed from each other as well. God instructs us to love Him with all of our hearts, with all of our minds, and with all of our souls. When God created Adam, He spent time with Adam. He developed a relationship with Adam before He eventually made Adam to fall asleep. And then He created Eve out of Adam's rib. But even after that, he had a relationship with Eve while Adam was asleep as well. He spent time and developed the woman, Eve, and then got Adam up and presented her to him. So you see, it is really key that we have this relationship with God. So our number one affection, our number one loyalty, our number one worship should be to God. If we develop our first relationship with God, secondly, develop relationship with self. God instructs us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Let's unpick this. Love your neighbor, but then it does not end there. As you have loved yourself. Therefore, if I do not love myself, I cannot love my neighbor. If God is love and God resides inside of me, then I love myself. And if I love myself, then I can love my neighbor. When we do not love ourselves, if you do not love yourself, you will accept false love into your life and name it love. And what is that false love? Toxic love, negative attention, lust. Let our love be sincere, which means that the absence of sincere love is one of the causes of high divorce rates. It could be. I'm not saying it definitely is, but I'm just thinking that could be one of the reasons. So if my love is not sincere, then I do not love God, because my love for God should be sincere anyways. You cannot love another more than you love yourself. And that is one of the reasons why people sabotage their own relationships. If I cannot learn to be cool with myself by myself without feeling lonely, and don't get me wrong, loneliness is a big issue, which I'm going to talk about in one of my videos. I've got content already on loneliness. But if I cannot love myself by myself, then I do not love God, because if God is love and He resides inside of me, and I love myself, then I love God. The greatest test, R.C. Blakes, this comes from him. The greatest test of singleness is self-love. If you cannot love yourself, then you cannot be in a loving relationship with another. If you cannot enjoy your own company, I know there are times that I want to be alone, and I do enjoy those quiet moments a lot. If you cannot enjoy your own company, then you cannot enjoy the company of another. The extent to which I love myself is a testament of my relationships. I am going to create healthy relationships with other people if I have a healthy relationship with self. And when I talk of a healthy relationship, people are probably thinking it has to do with how I think about others. Not necessarily. It has to do with how I take care of myself. It has to do with what I feed myself with, what I let my eyes see, what I let my thoughts think about, what I digest, what I eat, how I exercise, how I look after myself, my personal hygiene, my emotional health, my mental health. Those are all the things that come into play when I talk about relationships with yourself. My communion with God. We always attract from others what we truly feel about ourselves. And therefore, a lack of self-love would knowingly tolerate abuse. Now, there is abuse. There are some parts of the world. For example, I'm thinking about in Cameroon, in remote areas, in places, in like interior places. There are people who do not know what abuse is. And those people are probably abused and they do not know. But a lack of self-love would know that this is abuse and tolerate it. A lack of self-love will sabotage genuine relationships. A lack of self-love has a distorted view of what love is and what love looks like. A lack of self-love sometimes thinks love is something that someone gives you. Love is what you give yourself, because what you give yourself is a testament of what you're going to give another person. The third thing, love must be intentional. The feeling of loving someone is not enough, because it's just a feeling, it's based on nothing. You have to walk in love, and that means you have to hold hands even when you do not feel like looking at the other person in the face. There are times when my husband and I, we've got our own issues. However, we sit face to face and talk it out in a loving way without disrespecting each other. So my friend, do not just fall in love, walk in love, because the feeling of falling in love is not enough. There is more to it. Be mindful of the impressions of the movies, of the music that you listen to, the movies that you watch, what people tell you. Be mindful of those impressions. What impressions are they leaving on you? You have to be intentional in relationships. You have to make a choice. Remember, I said love is a choice as well? You have to make that choice on a daily basis. Sometimes it's on an hourly basis that you have to make that choice to be loving to the other person. So you see, love is more than an emotion. It is a covenant. It is a commitment. It is not just that tingling feeling that you have in the pit of your stomach. And I know that sometimes as Christians we can say, love is being a doormat. It isn't, because God tells us that it is a commandment. It is a choice that you have to make on a day-to-day basis. It tells us in 1 Corinthians 13 that love is kind. It is a choice that you make to be kind. It is not being a doormat. Last but not the least, love always deposits more than it withdraws. Wow, this is amazing, because if you just look at this, God gave his only son to die for us. We have nothing to give to God, but he gave up his son for the forgiveness of our sins. Selfishness, my friend, is one of the things that destroys love the most. It destroys relationships when you are not willing to deposit more than you are withdrawing. And I know that there's a lot out there these days in terms of abuse and narcissistic abuse and all of that, and emotional and mental and physical abuse. But all of these are born out of selfishness, I would imagine. Selfish desires. It is me, 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 and me again. Love develops in marriages when we are intentional, in relationships when we are intentional about the desires of our partners. When we constantly ask, how can I meet your needs? It has to be a two-way thing. It is not just one person asking, it is both of you asking. Rather than asking, how can I get what I want from you? How can I serve you? When both of us desire to deposit into each other, then there will be no lack. That means I'm depositing and you are depositing, which means it builds a whole lot that when two mature and intentional people decide to deposit into each other, it makes it such that everyone in the household can withdraw. Even people who come in to visit the house, they can withdraw as well. So my friend, are you depositing more than you're withdrawing? If you aren't, think about it. Think about it again and again. Never tolerate a person